भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayat Nashya Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah. Little volume. Hare Krishna, we welcome everyone for today's Bhagavad Live program, or Srimad Bhagavatam class. We're reading from 4th canto, chapter number 29, verses 60 onwards. I believe we read until yesterday, verse number 64. So we'll read today verse number 65. Please repeat after me. Tenasya tadrisham rajal
Tenasitam ritam raja
lingino deha sambhavam
Lingino deha sambhavam
Shraddha swan anubhuto artho
Shraddha sanahotarto
Namana sprashtamarhate
Namana sprashtumarhati
Tenasya tadrisham rajam
Tenasya tadrisham rajam
Lingino deha sambhavam
Lingino deha sambhavam
Shraddha swanubhuto artho
Saddhatsvananubhuto artho
Namana sprashtamarhate
Namana sprashtumarhati
Tenasya tadrisham rajam
Tenasya tadrisham rajam
Lingino deha sambhavam
Lingino deha sambhavam
Shraddha swanubhuto artho
Saddhatsvananubhuto
Namana
artho
sprashtamarhate
Namana sprashtumarhati.
What? Tena.
Tena.
Therefore.
Therefore.
Asya.
Asya.
Of the living entity.
Of the living entity.
Tadrasham.
Tadrasham.
Like that.
Like that.
Rajan. O king. Linganaha. Who has a subtle mental covering. Deha sambhavam. Produced in the previous body. Shraddhatsva, accept it as fact. Ananubhutaha, not perceived. Anubhuta, perceived. Anubhutaha, not perceived. Okay. Arthaha, a thing. Na, never. Manaha, in the mind. Sprashtam, to manifest. Arhati is able. Translation prepared by Joanne Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Hi Jai. Therefore, my dear king, the living entity who has a subtle mental covering, develops all kinds of thoughts and images because of his previous body. Take this from me as certain. There is no possibility of concocting anything mentally without having perceived it in the previous body. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमपदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नामने गौतसे नमः वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everyone. So let's do a quick recap. So the question was asked by King Parishad in text number 59. And the question was, Iti Veda Vidam Vadaha Shuyate Tatra Tatraha Karma Yat Kriyate Proktam Paroksham Na Prakashate. The expert knowers of the Vedic conclusion say that one enjoys or suffers the results of his past activities, but practically it is seen that the body that performed the work in the last birth is already lost. So how is it possible to enjoy or suffer the reactions of that work in a different body? And in this context, Nārada began to give his answer. So we read verses 62, 64 yesterday. Let's quickly read out the translation. Verse number 60 onwards, up to verse number 64.
The great sage Nārada continued, the living entity acts in a gross body in this life. This body is forced to act by the subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence and ego. After the gross body is lost, the subtle body is still there to enjoy or suffer. Thus, there is no change.
So there is also a subtle body, not only the gross body. And subtle body is what accompanies the soul to the next destination. Therefore, there's a continuity. Therefore, for you, it might look like this is all in all, because when you identify the body, you think body is lost, then whatever I did in relation to body should also be nullified. But that's not how it works. There is also a subtle body which continuously moves around in this material creation as long as you exist. So therefore, the karmic reaction doesn't function at the level of the body. It acts at the level of subtle body and continues across multiple lifetimes. Continue next.
The living entity labors under the bodily conception of I am this, I am that. My duty is this, and therefore I shall do it. 62. Sorry. The living entity, while dreaming, gives up the actual living body. Through the activities of his mind and intelligence, he acts in another body, either as a god or a dog. After giving up this gross body, the living entity enters either as an animal body or a demigod's body on this planet or on another planet. He thus enjoys the results of the reaction of this past life.
So what happens after that? He gets a body of Preta. What is a body of Preta? Which means without a gross body. That's what it means. And from there, then he is put into another gross body. Please continue.
The living entity labors.
And in this particular verse we have discussed, gross body is not as important as subtle body is important. That was a key message of this verse. We need to take care of the subtle body. We need to take care of what our mind is thinking, feeling, and accordingly it will also. How many of you at least have got this some level of awareness about your own conditionings, your own nature? Okay, let's do one thing. We can do a quick exercise. Can you just write down 3-4 points about your nature? These are the three dominant things that I know about my nature. I am like this, this, this. Which means, I'm sensitive to this, or I become angry at this, or I feel, we've been practicing devotion life for so long, so awareness would have naturally happened, or I have certain level of ego, what trips me down and what not, a little bit. This is all not because just from this lifetime, this is all from previous lifetimes. There's a point here. Very, very important topic this is. All right, please continue. Read the next verse.
The living entity labors under the bodily conception of I am this, I am that. My duty is this and therefore I shall do it. These are all mental impressions and all these activities are temporary. Nonetheless, by the grace of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity gets a chance to execute all his mental concoctions. Thus he gets another body.
So this verse was about planning. Living and karmatmakam buddhi. Living entity in this creation keeps on making plans. And there was an associated lesson for that. Please continue next verse.
One can understand
So
the
we discuss plan. If in case we are used to plan, conditioned to plan, then plan for the service of the Lord. Take an ownership so that our mind is dedicated there. Dovetailing. In true sense, that is dovetailing. Yes, go ahead.
One can understand the mental or conscious position of living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses: the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life.
Yeah. So the way we engage our working senses and the knowledge acquiring senses, that gives an that gives an indication of what is the state of mind. By understanding the state of mind, default state of mind, we can understand what kind of activities we would have engaged in the previous lives. The mind gets conditioned accordingly. That's the point. Next verse.
Sometimes we suddenly experience something that was never experienced in the present body by sight or hearing. Sometimes we see such things suddenly in dreams.
So, dreams prove the existence of past life. This is something which can be even taken up with the young people. This can establish many things about life and death. All right, let's do a quick. I thought this is such a topic. We'll have some question answer. So quick rapid fire in between the session. Then I'll move forward. I just want to make sure you all have got it. So yes or no. If you agree, raise your right hand. If you disagree, no. Close your eyes. I'm gonna be quick. At death, the living entity leaves all mental plans behind. So many of you have got it wrong. The answer is no. He does not leave his mental plans behind. He continues. And that's the reason he takes a birth again. Answer is no. The subtle body carries impressions into the next life. All right, yes. Dreams can include experiences from past lives. This is clear? Okay, correct. The mind can create completely new experiences never perceived before. No, mind cannot create that. Mind cannot create that. We cannot, it's nothing. What happens is, we'll see that ahead. It can take one incident, another incident, and merge it together. It may appear it's new, but it is still the mixing of the previous two incidents. It's just like in one lifetime, you might be kind of, living on the top of the mountain. In the another lifetime, you might be living next to the beach. And both that experience can be combined together, and you can see in the dream, there is an ocean on top of mountain. Or there is a beach on top of mountain. You getting it? So there's kind of a merging of two previous impressions. So what here Nārada says, it doesn't exist. So whatever you can, I mean, what is the idea of 8.4 million species? Why 8.4 million species? What does it mean? That is a limit of our desire. Each body is designed for fulfilling certain desire. That is the limit to which you can desire. That's the boundary. There is nothing that exists outside of it like that. So somebody asked a question, recently only somebody asked me a question. So why in Vedas there are no dinosaurs? So, I mean, one take from here is it's a combination of two different elements combined together to make into dinosaur. Somebody would have dreamt something like this kind of a creature. He would have taken a back portion of the elephant combined with the front portion of giraffe. He made one kind of dinosaur. Combination of, but it exists. It's just a combination of different realities. You create another, but it does not. It's not that you can create something, that doesn't happen. Okay. Fine. The mind. The face and action reveal the condition of the mind. Close your eyes. You forgot what's happening. The face and action reveal the condition of the mind. All right. Next. Mental plans determine the next body. Mental plans determine the next body. That's the correct answer. So be careful what you're planning about. Okay. So many times people say, all right, I will work so hard that I will finish all my plans before death. Do you agree or disagree? Disagree. Okay, why do you disagree? What is the correct understanding? Go ahead, give him the mic. I'll finish all my plans before death.
In yesterday's class, you mentioned that plans can never be completed. Like we cannot stop planning.
But somebody says, no, Prabhu, I have this 10 mission statement, and I will work so hard day and night. I will finish it, and once I finish it, then I will take to chanting the holy names of the Lord. Then I'll take to bhakti. Or let me just, study hard, get my first rank in a college, then I'll take for the youth preachers. Then I'll take to bhakti.
In reality, what happens is that after completing or accomplishing one plan, then other plan automatically generates. So it never stops.
But yeah, they may not agree to that. They may not have had that experience. What else? What is death? You're saying, once I'll finish all my plans, then I'll prepare for death. But what if death comes midway, you're planning your plans? So death is not certain. Death is not something going to happen at the age of 80. That's the idea. So that's another way of arguing for that. Okay, so I hope these few things are clear. Let's move forward now. Text number 65. Okay, text number 65. Oh yeah, we already read this, right? So now in text number, so dreams prove the existence of past life. We already discussed that. This text number 65 talks about that how the mind cannot concoct anything. Taking this from me as certain, there is no possibility of concocting anything mentally without having perceived it in the previous body. That's the idea, and Prabhupada is speaking about that. Okay. Let's go to text number 66. Please read. Translation.
O King, all good fortune unto you. The mind is the cause of the living entities attaining a certain type of body in accordance with his association with material nature. According to one's mental composition, one can understand what the living entity was in his past life, as well as what kind of body he will have in the future. Thus, the mind indicates the past and future bodies.
Just 1 second, yeah. So, sorry, you're distracted. O King, all good fortune unto you. The mind is the cause of living entities attaining a certain type of body in accordance with its association with material nature. What does it mean? Mind associated with particular mode is what defines your next species. Because according to the mode of consciousness, that kind of desires we will have. If you're in mode of ignorance, what kind of desires will have? We'll have a baser desires, lower nature. If you're in Rajoguna, we'll have desires accordingly. If you're in Sattvaguna, we'll have desires. Yes or no? Somebody who's in Sattvaguna will not have a desire like a person in Tamaguna. Their eating style is different, their dressing style is different, their lifestyle is different, everything is different. Wake him up. Everything is different about him. So what this verses are saying here is, if we want to move forward in our journey, so mental impressions from the previous body, so we have to carefully consider what kind of desires we are cultivating. So I remember in those days when I joined in the beginning, there was this one Mataji. I mean, I was in the temple, there were only Matajis actually. They were the temple leaders, they used to do all the service, there were hardly some men. Men were all working in their professional life. So initial, a lot of things, I got my training from these mothers, senior mothers. So I remember one mother who had come from Bombay. She was a doctor staying there, senior disciple of his Giriraj Maharaj. She was telling me, at that point of time, for me, enjoyment means the only source of enjoyment that I had in America that time was watching movies. And I had particular taste for movies, historical documentaries and whatnot. So there was this one particular historical movie had come. So I was just, asking some boys who were there, right in the very initial days. I said, let's go for a movie. So then there was a different experience that happened with them. Then this Mataji got to know. So she was also part of our Bhagavad Gita group. She and her husband used to teach Bhagavad Gita. So she's telling me, Mayank, we should not watch movies. It was such a heartbreak for me. मैं जीऊँगा कैसे? अमेरिका में सुख साधन की सुविधा ही क्या रह गई है? How would I live? What is the source of entertainment? I'm working so hard trying to do my course and whatnot. I said, why? And I was anyways getting a little bit fed up. Every week they were used to tell one thing, don't do, which was not by any means illegitimate. One day I got really agitated. Why? So, we were vegetarians, so there was no question on veg. In vegetarian, first they said, don't eat onion garlic. ठीक है, tolerated. Garlic was never case, onion was there, and I used to cook pulav. So pulav में onion डाला करता था. ठीक है, धीरे धीरे adjust कर लिया. Another my favorite item was मसूर की दाल. होती है ना north में? हाँ, मसूर दाल, right?
Red color.
हाँ?
Red color.
Yeah, whatever it is, you understood, right? North we call it. Then they told me that particular, we don't eat that. मेरे तन बदन में आग लग गई. मैंने कहा यार, तो vegetarian भी खाने नहीं दोगे? क्या तरीका है ये? तो मना कर देते हो. So they had their own reasoning for why not to eat and all that. So anyways, so then I asked, I said, why not movies? I was agitated. I said, what's the problem if you watch movie? And she said, when I was getting trained up, so my mentor told me, if you watch movies, it will create desires. When you watch movies, it will create desires. So I didn't understand the concept of you watch movies and desire. He said, what the idea of this whole advertisement and this all movies is to fill you with kama, lust, desires. When somebody goes and watches a movie and you say it's a hit movie, the reason you identify as a hit movie, for example, let's say there's a lot of buzz going around Dhurandhar. I believe one of the reason, I've seen the trailer, one of the reason why Dhurandhar is probably a hit movie, or whatever the part 2 will become a hit movie, the part 2 said revenge. It was about revenge. So I felt they touched very intelligently. They touched on the pain point of every Indian. For all these years, they have been, despite being the majority, they have been treated as minority even within their own country. And they have been terrorist attack and whatnot, and they have been abused from that other side of the community. Finally, this movie, I don't know if the other movies have shown on, finally this movie is showing Hindus can also take revenge. So something like that, that has really resonated with everyone. So my understanding of it is, when somebody goes and watches that movie now, they'll come out with that, motivation and inspiration. I can also take revenge. How the other community have treated us like this. And that's the reason probably the video is viral. So these movies, they create so many desires. Anyways, coming to the point here. So yeah, so as we are moving around this world, my take on life is such, how I look at the life is, I already have got so much to clear. I already got so many quota to clear. Why do I have to create new rasas, new tastes, and new desires? Why do we have to unnecessarily expose ourselves to things which will further fill us up, which will have to again, put an effort to clear it up, when there is already such a backlog? So that's the idea of these verses. If we don't fix the desire, so text number 66 is talking about, according to one's mental composition, in accordance with association with material nature, what it does, it gives a certain desires. And what does that desires do? That desires further does plan making. When you have a desire, what do? Next is plan making. So accordingly you make your plans. So accordingly your mind get absorbed in such thoughts. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tante kalevam. Accordingly you get your next destination. That is what text number 66 is saying. Please read the purport, first few lines of the purport.
The mind is the index of information about one's past and future lives. If a man is a devotee of the Lord, he cultivated devotional service in his previous life. Similarly, if one's mind is criminal, he was criminal in his last
What
life.
does Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says in this regard? He said, Kutam Bijam Aprarab Prarab. So there has been a seed. There will be a very interesting verse ahead. Let me ask this question. So let me give you an example. So I was there in Ghaziabad temple. His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj was there. So some of us, my parents were there, so they were introducing me with Maharaj. Precisely that was the situation. And and a young couple came, and they just had a baby. And I believe that's the standard desire every parent would have. Let my child become a nice devotee of your devotee. So the father brought the child to Maharaj and said, Maharaj, please bless my child so he can become, pure devotee of the Lord or of Srila Prabhupada, like that. So I was observing, I was very attentive. I said, what would Maharaj say? Let's hear what Maharaj say. Maharaj laughed, and he kind of chuckled and he laughed. He said, well, I can pray, but we'll get to know when he becomes a teenager. What is he? Then I was thinking, why did he say we'll get to know what he is when he becomes a teenager? Anyone like to give a purport to it?
Reflection from his past life, it will reflect.
I know we are discussing that topic. Makes some logical sense. You were quick to latch on to it. Why? So, as a child, they're innocent, and that innocence is glorified. As a Vaishnava, we should have that level of innocence. Yes or no? So Maharaj was saying, well, as a child, his conduct will make us feel as if he's a pure devotee. Fully innocent, no envy, nothing, fully joyful. But what happens by the time you become teenagers, then your body is ready to facilitate desires which it could not have done before. So it's not that Kam Vasana was not there. One simple example, sex desire. It's not that suddenly it happened when you became teenager. It was all the while there within the heart as a bijam. Because the body could not have facilitated, therefore it had not surfaced out. So why this in medical terms we call this teenage years? Because there's a genetical or whatever they call it as development of the body. Because now the body can facilitate that desire. Therefore that comes out in the forefront. So Maharaj, that's what he said. He said, well, I can pray, but would he be a pure devotee or not? We'll get to know when he's a teenager. Why? What kind of desires he would have. The desires which manifest, that will indicate what kind of interaction you have had in the past life. That was the meaning of it. So that's the idea here. So where were we? Text number 66. So in the same way, so similarly, one's mind is criminal, he was criminal in his past life. And that's what Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says about Kutam, Bijam, Papam, all that thing, sequence. So in the same way, according to the mind, very important, the same way, according to the mind, we can understand what will happen in future life. Mind refers to here what? Stockpile of desires. What refers to here? What is mind referring in this context is desire. Because where are you planning everything? That's at the desire. That's at the level of mind. So please go ahead to the next paragraph. If a person is the mode of goodness.
If a person is in the mode of goodness, his mental activities will promote him to a higher planetary system.
Alright. So Prabhupada quotes a verse prior to that. Verse says, according to the modes of material nature, after death you will get a destination. Udhvam gachanti sattvastha. The one who is sattvastha, situated in mode of goodness, urdhvam gachanti to go. Where he'll go? Urdhvam. He'll go to higher destination. Madhya tishtanti rajasa. Madhya refers to bhuloka. He will stay in the middle planetary system. And jaganya guna vratistha. Jaganya guna means mode of ignorance. Adho gachanti tamasa. He'll go into the darker regions. How, according to the modes of consciousness, we'll get the destination? Because you will have accordingly desire. Your mind would be thinking like that. And that's what Prabhupada is saying, what Anshul was reading. If a person is in the mode of goodness, please read out. What happens then to his mind?
If a person is in mode of goodness, his mental activities will promote him to a higher planetary system. Similarly, if he has a low mentality, his future life will be most abominable. The lives of the living entity in both the past and the future are indicated by the mental condition. Narad Muni is herein offering the king blessings of all good fortune so that the king will not desire anything or make plans for sense gratification.
Okay. So it all depends on the state of mind. So the state of mind that I have now is based on what I have cultivated in the past. And the state of mind I'll continue to have will determine what happens to me in the future. What is a mind? Mind is a stockpile of desires. What is a mind? Mind is a place where all our samskaras and past experiences have been stored. And those things manifest in dream. This all has been discussed. So my question is, how will you change the state of mind? How will you change the state of mind? What can I do to change the state of mind? By association. Jaisa Samvesarang, by saintly association. What does association means? Not just by association mind will change. Mind is too stubborn to change. That we need many things. Okay. What does association means? Means Shravanam, Harikata, Machita, Madgata, Pranaha, Bodhiyanta, Parasma. We can be together here, but we can be talking anything and everything. Machita, Madgata, Prana, Bodhiyantaha, Parasparam. Okay, that is one thing. What else? Yes?
I guess it requires a conscious effort. Use of like right now we are studying, so we have to be introspective, contemplative. It requires a conscious effort. Using the intelligence, we can control and purify the mind. We have to make our
Conscious
spirit.
effort
Yeah.
will not change anything. Conscious effort can help you to prevent, but it will not change anything. It's a preventive approach. How do you do with already which is there? So conscious effort is needed so that I don't expose myself to wrong environment. Conscious effort is again material planning. It will not purify the mind. So how do you deal with what is already existing?
For that, Chetudarpana Marjanam, so reduce the bad and increase the good. So
Define it. We are
Yeah.
speaking very
so
fragmentally.
attending Mangal Arti.
So simple thing is, Prabhupada gave us a formula for that. So when we attend Aarti, everything creates a new samskara. So when we attend an Aarti, anything, Tulsi Aarti, Nasim Aarti, even when we see deity, in Bhakti principle, just attending, just seeing the deity worship is equivalent to doing deity worship. Why so? It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. You're not performing an action. Just seeing the deity worship, you get the same result as a pujari who's doing the deity worship gets the result. Why? Because you're creating new samskaras. And these samskaras are not material samskaras. These samskaras have the potential to burn down the old samskaras. So therefore, the beauty of Prabhupada, why ISKCON became so, kind of famous in terms of its popularity and wide-scale transformation. I mean, how sinful man is today. Is it really easy to really, those who are in the front line preaching, you know how much effort it is just to inspire anyone just to chant one round. How much effort. Chalo, it is one thing to inspire them to chant one round, but far greater challenge is to maintain them, to keep them inspired to continue chanting. And they will continue chanting only when they're able to experience the transformation. If there is no transformation happening, they will quickly go back to the same old habits. So, unlike many other Babas and Gurus they're doing good, no doubt. But why ISKCON have functioned or flourished so well? Because Prabhupada gave us a process. If we just stick to it, it is doing what all these verses are talking about. When you engage in devotional activities, then devotional activity, because they are being spiritual in nature, they not only cover our samskara, they burn our samskara. That is what Bhakti Raswami said. Srila Rupa Goswami says, bhakti. This is what Sukdev Goswami tells to Parikshit Maharaj in 6th canto, chapter number 1. The power of bhakti is, it burns the fire, it burns the forest. It does not uproot, it burns. burns so that it will never, and it burns the desires like snakes, or snakes like desire. So they will not come back with the poison fangs. So the more we expose ourselves to spiritual activities like Prabhupada, simple thing is only one thing that we have to do. What we need to plan is try our best to stick to Prabhupada formula. We don't have to reinvent. Maybe we can adjust a little bit. Whichever situation, wherever we are, how much we can attempt to attend the full morning program, hear, read as much as morning and evening. That will help us purify that, and that will help us to move from lower modes to higher modes of consciousness. So the conclusion is that one should be without mental desire. The best course for a human being is to favorably accept the transcendental devotional service of the Lord. That is the perfection of human life. So how to become free from mental desire? Can I just immediately give up my desires? So how to become free from mental desires? By dovetailing. You can't say that I will start desiring for Krishna. It won't happen. By dovetailing. So whatever material desires you have, try to dovetail in the service of the Lord. Somebody likes to sing for Krishna. That's what Prabhupada said. And that's the reason in ISKCON you'll see so much variety. Literally everyone can find something for himself. There is something for everyone in ISKCON. That's how Prabhupada created a system. I was surprised when I heard a rock concert, Hare Krishna rock concert in the West. What is the logic of Hare Krishna rock concert? What is that called? It was during festival time they'll make it. There is it is made of the wheat. The wheat is baked and then it is boiled and whatnot, and finally the product that comes it looks like chicken. I don't know if you have ever had that. Those who have been to ISKCON in America, they will have that experience. So I remember it was the first Janmashtami where I was participating, and I was in the kitchen doing service, and they brought that thing to me. They said, cut it. I was shaken up. I thought, yeah, ये तो मांस लग रहा है. It is red, literally red. And when you cut so now how I had an experience of meat is, we have never been, I have not eaten a son of family culture, but in my first year of engineering, I was working in a college restaurant as a part-time. So I was kind of a manager there, overseeing the timings and schedule of the chefs and cooks. So there was a lot of meat. So there I saw a lot of meat, cutting of meat and all that. So it will be reddish color and it will be lighter shade inside. So when I saw that, it really felt like I'm cutting a meat. I don't know which meat, but I'm cutting a meat. So after doing it for a while, I got fed up. I said, yaar, ye to dhoka hai. I know I have to address this. How can they, on the day of Janmashtami, they serve a meat? I remember. And I don't know anyone on this, just getting connected. So I went and spoke to Prabhupada disciple who was there. I said, Mataji, I don't know if you know or not. They gave me meat to cut. And they said, no, this is not meat, but this is, we make it from wheat. And then she took me down in the basement. There was a big baking machine, and she showed me how it is done like this. So I'm saying, because people have that desire, so in the West, they cook thing which looks like a meat, so that those who have a desire for non-vegetarian item, their desire can be fulfilled. I asked, why you do so? He said, today is Janmashtami, we're going to have a lot of guests come. So in every Janmashtami festivals, we make such items, so those who are too used to eating meat, so they'll feel like eating meat, but they're getting Krishna Prasadam. So I was like, how much, this is called as planning. This is, trying to, plan out how we can serve. And like that. We were in Detroit, Maharaj's book launch was happening, and there was a dinner. Nothing looked vegetarian. Nothing looked vegetarian. Even the salad dressing didn't look vegetarian. I'm not saying that. There was this program in Detroit. So Maharaj sat down and Maharaj gave a class. At the end of the class, Maharaj made a point. Maharaj would always pick up something and make a joke. And he said, today I had the best dinner. I had never been so nervous in my life while having Krishna Prasad as I was today. So everyone was like, attending what? Maharaj said, I went and I looked at the items. Nothing looked vegetarian. Then I inquired who cooked it, and then they told me, this Prabhupada who cooked it. Then I understood. Because all Western guests were coming, so it was planned in such a way that everything looked like meat. Everything looked like meat. He said, by trying to have full faith that this devotee would not betray. I ate some dinner out of respect, but I was so fearful. Anyway, so that's one of the ideas. Plan, dovetail in the service of the Lord. All right, text number 67. This is about merging of different, past experiences and creating something new, which may look like new, but it is just a combination of two different experiences. Text number 67. Please go ahead.
Sometimes in a dream, we see something never experienced or heard, or in this of in this life. But all these incidents have been experienced at different times, in different places, and in different conditions.
Prabhupada writes at the end of the purport. The conclusion is that these are all mental concoctions. Although they have actually been experienced in different circumstances, they have simply combined together in a dream. This fact is further explained in the following verse. Very important verse. Sarve karmanurudhena manasi indriya gocharaha ayanti bahushayahanti sarve samanaso janaha. The mind of the living entity continues to exist in various gross bodies. And according to one's desire for sense gratification, the mind records different thoughts. So here it is mentioned, even our desires, which creates thoughts, creates a samskara. Not only action, not willing. Even at the level of thinking, samskara has been created. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Dhyayatu Vishyan Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate. So when we talk about this two verses 62 and 63, the stages are fall down, where we can address it, where we can fix it. At the level of mind, at the level of intelligence, where we can fix it. Dhyayatu Vishyan Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate. Sanga Sanjayate Kamat. Kamat Krodho Vijayate. So where can we address? We can address only at Dhyayatu Vishya, at the level of contemplation and thinking. So in that particular verse we discuss particularly, change your contemplation. Do not expose yourself to certain things where you will begin to contemplate wrong subject matter. When we begin to contemplate wrong subject matter, Dhyayatu Vishyan Pumsaha, Vishaya sense object, Dhyayatu Vishyan Sangaste Supajayate, because in mind you are associating with that sense object, then you become attached to it. So at the thinking level, this happens. It's very, very powerful. So we need to change our thinking. So how do we change our thinking? Our mind wants to explore. Our mind wants to experience different rasas. It wants to have something. Therefore, reading scriptures are so powerful. Particularly if somebody is doesn't have that intellect. It's all because of karma. Doesn't have the side where they enjoy philosophy. Very few people are going to enjoy philosophy. That's understandable. Then go to Ramayana and Mahabharata. Anyways, Ram Navami is coming around. Read Ramayana. It's so beautiful, so wonderful. And you'll see how thinking changed. And that's how we change the mind. Alright, text number 68. So in the mind, these appear together in different combinations. Therefore, these images sometimes appear as things never seen or never heard before. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the transmigration of the soul is caused by the subtle body, which is a storehouse of all kinds of material desires. Unless one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, material desires will come and go. Again, Prabhupada writes, unless one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, what do you mean by fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness? Material desires will continue to come and go. What does it mean? Unless one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. The explanation? A nice analogy our Acharya gives. Mind, you can treat it as a recording device. Anything you think, anything you do is 24/7 recording. Very nice. It goes on recording, and the beauty of it is, it never gets exhausted. Its storage power, the cloud storage is unlimited. That's not nothing to be happy about it. That's not a good experience. We got to fix it. So what it means, unless one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, absorbed. Absorption is what? At the physical level or mental level? It's at mental level. When Prabhupada says International Society for Krishna Consciousness, What does it mean? Absorption, Krishna consciousness, absorption at the mental level. Suggest some means how we can be absorbed at the mental level. How can we absorb at the mental? Because that's what, it's not at the physical level, it's all at the mental level. How can we absorb at the mental level? What can we do? We can take a baby step. I'm not saying 24/7. We can start, we can do this, we can do this, we can be incremental, that's okay. It's easy for me to see from the renounced order because here I have the opportunity to do it 24/7. Yes?
Take responsibility of some service.
Take responsibility of some service, which we have been speaking about it. What else? In fact, I say this point because as soon as Radhanath Maharaj gave a lecture, the lecture title was Taking Responsibility. So what I learned this point from that lecture of Maharaj. That lecture was taking responsibility. Everyone should take responsibility. That was the point Maharaj kept on hammering, and the lecture name is Taking Responsibility. Yes. What else? Becoming absorbed in Krishna consciousness. What it means? What can we do?
Developing a taste for hearing Krishna Katha.
Developing a taste is not something which is within our potential. It's not something we'll say tomorrow we'll have a taste. So what we can do is we can plan. So what is the scripture says? How do you develop taste? How do you develop taste for, let's say, hearing, chanting? What is the process given?
By doing it continuously.
Yeah, Shushrusha Shaddha Dhanasya, with Saddha, Shushma hearing, Shushrusha Shaddha Dhanasya, Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. You will be able to hear with faith, Shraddha, and have attraction to hear Hari Katha. Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. How? Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipara. Punyati Tanishevanat. When you begin to render service. When you begin to render service to advanced devotees. So therefore, again going back to the same thing, in the movement of Srila Prabhupada, if you can take up some service which aligns with Prabhupada's mission and of course with the community we were connected, not doing separately, then it won't be aligned. So doing that gradually gives us taste. Who gives us taste? It is awarded by Krishna. Dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayanti te. So it's not mechanical that happens. So that happens by the grace. Everything happens in our life by the grace, by the mercy, like that. So mind is like a recording device. So be careful what we expose it to. Avoid unnecessary material impression. And therefore in the previous week I was discussing about, be very careful of associating with people who do fault finding. It so much negatively will impact you. This is very powerful, and then what happens here is even more powerful. So therefore in the previous week we talked about the session, how to conduct so that others do not become envy, and why not to be envious of others. And we had an elaborate discussion about fault finders. Be careful of that. Text number 69, right? Yes, please, is the translation 69? It's interesting words. Let's take a look at the Sanskrit again. Satvika nishtute manasi Bhagavat Pashava Vartini Tamas Chandrama Svedam Upara Jaya Vashate. So when we're talking about, like Gramya Katha, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, the fault finding. So sometimes devotee says, we should hear to the other person's concerns and all that, which is fine, but there has to be a boundary of what we can hear. Similarly, for those who guide others, we have to be careful. Sometimes certain individuals have this idea, unless we hear to them, how would we be able to empathize? But you have to be careful while you're hearing it. ऐसा ना हो आप empathize करने के लिए जीवित ना बचो. We do so much self-destruction. So I remember in those days when we used to do training. People love to talk about themselves. Please raise your hand. How many of you agree? People love to talk about themselves. And given an opportunity, and there is no better person, listener, than devotees. And people want to come and share their heart. But the problem is their heart is so dirty. If we hear, our heart will become dirty. We have no problem. Machita madgata prana, bodhyanta parasparam. We are willing to, but katyantas, it should be harikatha. You pour your heart with harikatha, we are very happy. But they pour that contaminated heart because kahin to frustration nikalni hai. So we have to be very careful. We can't take it for granted. We can't say no, because I want to empathize with them and all that. We have to be sensitive to that. Then you will not survive. It doesn't work. For example, somebody comes and shares his lustful experiences, with his girlfriend. प्रभु क्या बताऊं? मैं आपको बताना चाहता हूं. मेरी पहली गर्लफ्रेंड ऐसी थी. आपके संग मैं पूरी दिल खोल के बात करना चाहता हूं, साफ बात करना चाहता हूं. हमारे बीच में कोई भी क्या कहते हैं मिसकम्युनिकेशन नहीं रह जाए. आपके सामने कोई भी मेरी कहानी छुपी नहीं रही. मैं आपको सब डिटेल्स में बताता हूं हमने वैलेंटाइंस डे को क्या किया. तुम्हारा तो हो गया गास. वहां बैठे बैठे तुम्हारा अजामिल कांड है ना. It will be like Ajamil Khan in action, and he will be like, I am a senior devotee. I should empathize. See how, and you would have an immediate experience with lust, yes or no? But fault finding, it doesn't create immediately. It works very subtly. It will sow the seed of doubts, but it will destroy. Be very careful about it. Therefore, last time I was saying, ask that person, what you're saying is factual. Is it truth? And is it important for me to know? And after hearing, can I really help you? If not, why are we talking about it? So, yes, go ahead.
There is a saying that a good speaker is a good listener. So, बोला जाता है कि सुनना चाहिए. जैसे आपने बताया कि
Yeah, true. In relationship, listening matters. But according to your strength, how much you can handle, you should listen. You're getting it, na? Good listening doesn't mean that allow them to kill my consciousness. If let's say, for example, I'll tell you, I was giving a seminar at one forum. I used the word cleavage. Cleavage has a meaning of, dividing it. So one person gave me a feedback. Prabhu, I got agitated in your seminar. मैंने कहा ऐसा क्या कहा? He actually came and met me. He wrote and then he came and met me. So I said, what happened? What did I say? You got agitated. Prabhu, you used few times the word cleavage. So I said, what happened, cleavage? Then I understood from where was he coming. Can you imagine just using the word? So similarly, you might have seen oftentimes, I don't use, the word says sex, I don't use the word. Because we have all kind of audience sitting here. We are so kind of, because we don't know from which background people have come. And, we still have young people, everyone is joining for this. Just a word, although put into the right context, can destroy that person's consciousness. Because, in the outside world, the word sex is seen in a particular way. It can just drive him crazy with that. So you have to be, first of all, aware what is your limit. What can I do? How much can I hear? If we are so sensitive or if we are so contaminated and corrupted, just the word can agitate us. Where is the point कि प्रभु जी मैं जब तक सुनूंगा नहीं उसकी मदद कैसे करूंगा? तो मदद करने लायक जीवित रहोगे तभी तो मदद करोगे. That much has to be there. It's an interesting thing. And which is a one profession where you have maximum suicides? If that's a guess, it's a good guess. But it's a proven fact. One profession where you have maximum suicides or maximum cases of depression is psychologists. Because I've studied this in the past, I know of that. You can look into it. I've met with psychologists. Very painful life they have. Can you imagine the job of a psychologist? People come and dump. How would they sustain themselves? And their job is to hear. Because one part of the treatment is you cannot. So why somebody goes to psychologist? Who's recommended to say that? I have also recommended certain individuals in the past to go to psychologists. Why? Because the first line of treatment for these individuals is somebody has to hear their story. And I realize I don't have the capacity to hear their story. And because when you become so absorbed now, that person, I'm telling you how it happens with mind, is very dangerous. You have to be careful. When you become so self-absorbed, that person cannot stop talking about himself. What do you mean by himself? Either he will talk about the problems he's going through, either he'll talk about how others have created a problem for me. He will, at the end of the day, he will just keep talking about I. Welcome to the world outside. This is what the world people are doing outside. When you go and meet with people, what they talk about? It's always I. And when I would notice, this person is not willing to hear, to fix his problem with their self-absorption. In the past, 2-3 people have recommended. I have even recommended couples. But they're just not being able to sort out things between them. I say, you need a psychologist. Why? At least he'll get paid to hear your trouble. Here, I will get destroyed. It's not, so we have to be careful. Yes, listening is important, but we have to know how much we can listen, what's our capacity. Okay? Yeah, we can open for questions because there's a topic which needs, we can on the mic, please. They're online audience.
Sometimes
I'm no hurry of finishing this because this is one of the most important themes which directly impacts our life. This is not about philosophy or karma, jnana, bhakti, which is something which is relevant. Yeah.
Sometimes if we are in the same particular level or we are trying to build a relationship, so sometimes it happens he's sharing something. Sometimes we used to hear for our enjoyment, and that also increases our prajalpa propensity.
Correct. So yeah, so that happens. Correct. So Kanishta enjoys Kanishta's association. They become very disturbed in senior association because they immediately cut. Don't do the prajalpa. Kanishta in general don't like senior association much because they will not hear to them much. And in senior association they are supposed to hear. So therefore they become little disturbed because I have to speak. I also know. So that happens. Okay. And at times Kanishta have actually the thickest relationship with the same like-minded Kanishta. And then one day, they're like Sundar and Upasundar. One same subject will come in between, they'll do fist fighting and kill each other. I've seen so many times it happens, And they perceive it as a devotional relationship. It doesn't work like this, There's a whole science to it. Okay? Any other thing here? Where were we? So absorbed mind in Krishna's service. Text number 69 we have to read. I was reading shloka, right? We read the whole shloka. Yeah, translation please.
Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In such a mental state, the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. Such observation is not always possible, but it becomes manifest exactly like the dark planet known as Rahu, which is observed in the presence of the full moon.
Rahu Dasha. This is the most dangerous part of anyone's life. Rahu Dasha. I'll speak some other time about Rahu Dasha. So coming to the point. So Prabhupada is saying, translate, Krishna consciousness means constantly associating with the Supreme Personality of God and in such a mental state that the devotee can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. What does it mean? To see everything in relation with the Lord. Mamemam sujuvaloka jiva bhuta sanatana. So when we see everything in relation to the Lord, then how do we conduct ourselves? Then we serve. That is the idea. Can observe the cosmic manifestation exactly as the same way as the Supreme Personality of Godhead does. So such observation is not always possible. So here, let's take a look at what Prabhupada writes. Next paragraph. Please read the next paragraph. No living entity is free from the cycle of birth and death.
No living entity is free from the cycle of birth and death unless he takes to Krishna consciousness. Therefore, in this verse, it is clearly stated that when one is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, in one stroke he is freed of past and future mental desires. Then by the grace of the Supreme Lord, everything becomes simultaneously manifest within the mind. In this regard, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur cites the example of Mother Yashoda seeing the whole cosmic manifestation within the mouth of...
So what it means, just like Rahu becomes visible, so for a devotee, when he advances, all his karmic reactions become visible and they are burned to ashes. What is the meaning of visible? They are destroyed. And here Prabhupada has just given an example, seeing as the Lord sees. So Lord showed kind of a Virat group to Mother Yashoda where she saw the whole creation. That is the point is mentioned. And then Prabhupada said, the Krishna conscious person can see all his dormant desires at one time and finish all his future transmigration. This facility is specially given to the devotee to make his path clear for returning home back to Godhead. Please read the last paragraph.
Why we see things not experienced in this life is explained herein, that which we see is the future expression of a gross body or is already stocked in our mental stockpile. Because a Krishna conscious person does not have to accept a future gross body, his recorded desires are fulfilled in a dream. We therefore sometimes find things in a dream never experienced in our present life.
All right. So I guess by this time the path is clear. What to do? Can we just summarize so we know what are the action points for us to take? This set of verses are actually giving us practical idea how to go back home, back to Godhead. So can we just summarize what exactly we need to do to create our trajectory or to create our path to go back home, back to Godhead? So the problem, I'll ask a question, you can give an answer, and then we'll write on the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 what we need to do, and we'll a little bit make it tailor-made according to the ashram that we are in. So what is the root cause? What is the problem here right now? And the problem is the mind is corrupted. Mind is corrupted with material desire. Right now, the problem is, we should be clear with the problem statement. The problem is the mind. Let's not make it too complicated by getting to sense intelligence. Let's keep it simple. The problem is the mind, the sitting place of lust, a sitting place of the stockpile of desire. The mind is corrupted, and the nature of the mind is thinking. So next thing is, he's always planning. Planning to do what? Is always planning to fulfill our material desires. Third point, because the mind is always planning to fulfill material desires, as long as we have plans, as long as we have material desires, till that time we'll continue to have next body. Transmigration will continue because of material. The root is material desire. Action is planning. So as long as we have desires, mind will continue to plan fulfillment of the desires. Until that time, we'll continue to have next body. Higher, lower, whichever, depending on which mode of consciousness of mind is situated. If a mind is situated in mode of goodness, we'll have desires accordingly, we'll plan accordingly, and we'll get next life. So according to goodness, passion, ignorance, we get different destination. So now, how Krishna consciousness, how Krishna conscious solution that Prabhupada is offering, or Prabhupada has given to us, in simple layman terms, how can we change this, can actually go back to Godhead, rather than taking a lower species or again continuing in this world. So let's do the reverse engineering for it. Our cause for taking next birth is mind. The cause is mind. And what particular action of mind is responsible for us taking next body is? Planning. Action. Action is the mind thinks, feels and will. Willing is planning. The mind is planning to do it. So if we can change the planning, are you able to create a flowchart kind of a thing? Mind. So you can say mind has desires, and what mind is doing is planning, and because of that planning, you're getting next body. Now what you want to have a spiritual body. If you want to have a spiritual body, then what we need to change? The planning. So what we need to do? If we can plan for Krishna's pleasure, Krishna's service, then we'll be able to think about Krishna. That way, so we are saying if you want to have a spiritual body, how will you get a spiritual body? If you're planning for Krishna, if you're planning to serve Krishna. Now how to plan for Krishna? Well, for planning for Krishna, we need to have that desire, because desire is the root of planning for Krishna. Now how to have those desires? Now write down how to have those desires. So right now desires are contaminated and corrupted. So how to have those desires? First, we need association, sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya. So in that association of devotees, then we get bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya is opportunity to render bhajan, opportunity to engage in devotional service. So in that sadhu sangha, we get an opportunity to serve. So what matters to us at this point of time is to take the association of devotees very seriously. Because in their association, we cultivate the right desire. And for that, what Prabhupada said, now how to fix it? Now we are in the association of devotees. Everyone is an association of devotees. But we can still be distracted. So mind is not so easy to handle. Mind is tricky. So therefore, a plan has been created for us. What is the plan? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave a plan. Beat the mind with broom in the morning and with shoes in the, or with slippers in the night, or vice versa, whatever. So morning and evening we have to have a spiritual program which nourishes our mind. This is not the time where we plan. This is the time where we nourishes ourselves, and rest of the day plan. So the morning program is morning program where we're nourishing our mind by exposing our consciousness to as much as spiritual items. And Prabhupada said, okay, finish your rounds, do whatever you want to do. So now you can go and engage in activities. So morning program is for nourishment of the body, nourishment of the mind, nourishment of the soul. The rest of the day engage in your activities, and then end the night again with nourishment. Why end the night with nourishment? Because you have dreams to handle. If you don't nourish your mind in the night time with Krishna conscious stuff, then your dreams will be old samskara surfacing. If you wake up, how many of you have that experience? You saw a certain dream, but you saw the manifestation of dream in the physical body. And the physical body means you may not have that, but you experience that very strongly. So if you have had some contaminated dream at physical level, you already had a fall down. So therefore, to overcome that, Prabhupada said in the night, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave a system. In the night, cultivate Krishna consciousness. Have some Krishna consciousness, nourishment. It could be association of devotees doing some, Krishna Katha like that. If we plan our life like this is a package, and then try to take a responsible service. So we are forced to think about Krishna. So when we talk about responsible service, we are forced to think about Krishna. I already made this clear. That can happen well in conjunction with if you are hearing regularly. Because there is always a chance of me doing it for myself. So hear regularly, so that we remain aligned with the purpose, with the goal, and then render your devotional service. And while doing all this thing, one precaution we have to follow. What is the precaution? What not to do? Vaishnava. And I'm not saying anything new. This is what Prabhupada gave. I've just kind of decoded what Prabhupada given us. What not to do? Vaishnava aparad. Now what does Bhagavatam says? How does Vaishnava aparad happens? Well, that is, Vaishnava aparad takes place. But what is the cause of Vaishnava aparad? It's beauty, huh? Everything there is, whole system is given. What makes a devotee commit Vaishnava aparad? That is always there. It's not that right now sitting you don't have envy. We all have it. But what makes a person commit Vaishnava? There is a cause for it. Asatsanga. The cause is asatsanga. So therefore you have to become very careful of association. And therefore I was speaking about be careful of fault finders. So asatsanga is the cause of Vaishnava aparad. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bhagavatam says, so take care of asatsanga. Take care means don't care, maintain a distance. So here coming back to Anshul Prabhu's point, should we hear? No. Are you going to hear too from asasangis? It will destroy you. What it will do? Either it will create material desires or it will destroy your faith in Vaishnavas. This is what we have to take care of it. And that's the whole system. We can take care of it. If somebody has made a nice notes of it, can make a nice infographic. Pratipu. Germany Jindabad. And we can paste it. This should stuck into a kind of, we should not have confusion about any step. Nothing happens randomly. There's a clear science for everything. So we should have this clarity. Okay. So anyways, time is over now. We'll leave the further verses later on. Any concluding questions or comments on this? Yes, please.
So would you like me to discuss that? Regarding dream, so it's all about the past life impressions. Two impressions are getting merged and it is creating a new experience that is not new, but it looks like. And also we mentioned that, you mentioned that when we will plan for things like morning program and all, it will force to think about Krishna. Like in the night itself, if we'll hear more, it will force us to think about Krishna.
How it happens forced to think about Krishna, let me just clarify that. What do I mean by forced to think about Krishna? It will not happen. Let's say somebody asks, Prabhuji, I'm just thinking about, let's say cleaning the temple hall. I'm not able to think about Krishna, which is correct. What is happening? Because you're thinking about devotion service, you're getting purified. You're getting purified. And that purification gradually will make you remember Krishna. It will not happen overnight. So slowly, look at your own devotional practice. Our ability, let's say when you used to come for classes in those initial days, कुछ जाता था, maximum नहीं जाता था. Yes, we all have that experience. To the degree each one of us, that is something for you to analyze. To the degree we have become purified, you see our ability to grasp and absorb have improved drastically. I'll give you one example, which was very amazing for me. So this was this brahmachari back in America, in those days in America. So he was cooking in the kitchen. He was cooking bhoga in the kitchen, and we were praying Prabhupada lecture in the temple hall. And this person, while cooking bhoga, remembered everything about Prabhupada lecture, and we were hearing Prabhupada lecture, didn't remember. And I asked him, I said, Prabhu, we were attentively hearing, pretending to be. We were in the temple hall, you were cooking in the kitchen, you happen to remember far much more than us. He just chuckled, he just smiled, he said, Prabhu, because I hear regularly, so maybe therefore I could, retain it. But the point is purification. To the degree we get purified, you will notice. His Holiness Shivram Swami Maharaj writes, what is the sign of advancement? What is not advancement? Advancement is equivalent to purification. How do we know devotee is getting purified? If devotee is getting purified, we'll notice, of course, there could be some karmic thing involved also, but in general, when it comes to hearing and chanting, he will be wide awake. He would not be falling sleepy. If somebody is falling, now again, there could be some karmic thing involved, which means somebody may have some bodily defects. Bodily defect in the sense, his body may not be, if somebody has to sit down, because of the way his body has been, maybe that while sitting down, he just cannot be awake. That could be one, because his body is like that, and therefore we have to be careful not becoming overweight. We already discussed that, Papa says so. So if that's the situation, then body will not support. But one thing is, you're chanting, you will be attentive, at least you'll be awake. While hearing, you will be, sometimes you might see some devotees' eyes are kind of dozed off, but they're still listening, but they're still hearing. So these are some of the ways for us to analyze how it's going about it. So once in a while, we can keep a mobile camera in front of us, record us chanting, and then give yourself marks on the level of purification, where we are 0 to 10. Yes, go ahead.
So mostly like our past acharyas, they are having this kind of experiences like Madhavendra Puri. So Gopalji came in his dream. So how can we understand the science of coming Krishna in dream, and are they able to see the sound of Krishna, or they able to see Krishna that I'm here and all like? So how that dream we can explain it?
Actually, when Lord wants certain thing to happen, see, Lord as Paramatma can appear. So when we talk about Paramatma, Samabham Sarva Bhuteshu, Nami Dvishya Sinabhya, he's neutral. But still, if he wants to, if he wants anything to be done, he can get it done. And how to get it done? He can force himself and appear in somebody's dream and give him or her an instruction what to do, what he wants to do. And this is a kind of many have had repeated experiences like that, where, Lord wants his service to be done by so and so devotee, and that devotee happens to be there. Lord will come in the dream and tell him, so this is where it is, I want you to do this. And then when that thing gets done, then Lord will not come back again in his dream, and the devotional service continues. So there are so many, and it not necessarily have to be a pure devotee for that to happen. Lord can choose to make you an instrument for getting his service done, so that other devotee can do the service. But for other devotee to get that, so Lord wants, just as Sanatana Goswami and that Brahmana, I don't know if he was a pure devotee or not, whatever the situation, but Lord did came to him in his dream and told him, because when Sanatana Goswami asked, he said no. But the next morning, he only brought the deity. He said, well, Gopal came into my dream. Madan Gopal was the name that time. He came into my dream. Our Advaita Acharya had found Madan Gopal, and then he left it to a Brahmana at Mathura. And then Madan Gopal came to Sanatana Goswami, and from there he became Madan Mohan. So it happened. So it can happen. Why it can't happen like that? So for them, they actually see, just like we see the dream. I don't have an experience, so I'm just saying this is how it happens. They can see and hear, and to the degree of their faith, then they act on it. Like that. And for a pure devotee, if you look in the science of the sleeping, their wakeful state and their sleeping state has no difference. For a pure devotee, even if he's sleeping, he's engaging, his mind gets so trained up. Even while in sleep, he's rendering devotional service. That's the state. And one classic example, which we got to see recent times, is known as Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. There was a video which was circulated by his servant. Maharaj was sleeping and he was doing deity worship. So it is not something surprising. It was definitely very joyful to see. But it's a fact which is mentioned as Shastras. Even while sleeping, you would be rendering devotional service, because for them, sleeping and wakeful state, there is no difference. It's same. It's just because body needs to be relaxed, so that's thing occurs, and therefore for them the sleeping time drastically reduces. Goswamis would sleep not more than 2 hours. Srila Prabhupada would not sleep more than 4 hours. तुम किसी 17 साल के आदमी को बोल दो कल का मरता आज मर जाए, ये सुन के कि केवल 4 घंटे सोना, how is it possible? So that happens like this. So Prabhupada told one of his disciples back in those days in Bari, he said, I have come here to teach you no eating, no sleeping, no defending, no waiting. And disciple said, Prabhupada, no. Prabhupada said, yes, but if I tell you no, you'll all run away. So I'll tell you right now, no problem. Eat as much as you want. Sleep 6 hours, not more than 6 hours. But eventually, no eating, no sleeping. This is how the yogi thinks about it. So what do you think? Yogis living in the Himalayas, they're sleeping or what? They perform day in, day out, they're sitting in Padmasana. That's how they extend their life. And how they extend their life? So idea is, our breath is, so just, I believe some of you might know also, if not, just tell you, at the time of birth, how is our life duration determined? So life duration is determined by the number of breath. By the number of breath, your years are calculated. So what in this yoga culture they do, I'm not saying the yoga culture of the Western yoga culture, but in these yogis, how they have this long lives, they'll hold and they'll exhale. So what they do, they reduce per day the frequency of inhale and exhale, they drastically reduce. Because of which, you see, they're cheating the system. That's how they cheat the system. So because what is determined, your breathing is determined, number of breath. So they reduce it, so therefore they extend the lifespan. So now my question is, भाई तू जब तक जाग रहा है तब तक तो कंट्रोल कर लेगा, सोते में क्या करेगा? So those who live for years or centuries after centuries, they don't even sleep. They're sitting in that kind of, they're very advanced yogis. Those who are like 700 years, 800 years plus they're living, but they're very advanced. They don't even sleep then. That's samadhi. They go in trance. And in trance, you can hold breath for a longer period of time. So anyways, so those of you jogging out too much, you're shrinking your days. You're breathing it too fast. And therefore, mode of passion, you notice we breathe in, breathe fast. So anyways, no problem. We can't fix everything, but at least try to serve Lord. That will be okay. I have the answers. Fine, we pause here. Anything online? Nothing like that. Upper going pro. Yes, upper going pro. And Prashant Sarvam. Yeah, please.
Earlier ages, we know that a person born in a Kshatriya family, he becomes Kshatriya automatically. Of course, the guna and karma plays a role, but this was a scenario in general that the
reason for this scenario was because there was no Varna Sankara. They were very careful. Kshatriya will get married to Kshatrani. For example, Dhritarashtra कह रहा हूँ, क्या नाम है? Vyasdev, right? No, not Vyasdev, sorry. Viduji was whose son?
Dasi.
Yeah, Dasiputra. But who begot Viduji?
Vyasdev.
Was Vyasdev only, right? Yeah, Vyasdev. So yeah, Viduji's brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu, correct? So now, among three of them, the most sober was Vidurji. And after Pandu's death, definitely Dhritarashtra was not at all qualified compared to Vidurji. But yet Vidurji was not made the king because he was not born from the Kshatrani. So therefore, they were very careful about these things. Maintaining the kind of this, their, what do you call it? The genes, they call it, or something. So they were very careful about it. So that's how most of the time it will happen like that. Yeah, go ahead.
So, Prabhuji, the question is, these activities of Kshatriya or Vaishyas, all those are based on the particular, structure or particular psychophysical nature of individual, which is again is a product of a mind. So, how this birth, which is physical, and this mind is interconnected, because it should not be like that, a person.
No, can you just, you're making it too complicated. Make it simple question. Are you asking, how does my mind determines my next birth?
No, Prabhuji. The question is how this mind, structure of mind is getting, based on the birth and all those things when the things were pure. So this.
I'm still not clear what you're saying. How is birth determining the mind or what?
Yeah, I mean, because mind is the non-physical entity.
No, don't explain the question. Just simplify the question so I understand the question. Because once you go into explanation, you'll make it more complicated. So what is the question exactly?
So the question is, Prabhuji, the how this mind, being a subtle entity, is interconnected with the birth, which is a physical entity.
Interconnected with the birth.
Birth, yeah, because in previous ages the
interconnected with birth. So you're saying how mind plays a role in the next body?
Kshatriya born how does that is
So okay, Kaushal is decoding your question. So are you saying in the house of Kshatriya, Kshatriya is born, so how Kshatriya is born in the house of Kshatriya?
Yeah, kind of, because mind is subtle entity, so how it is that?
Oh, that is okay. We know it's a subtle entity. Don't repeat that. Please repeat the question so we understand the question.
I just wanted to understand the connection of a mind.
And we are trying to understand your question. Then only I can understand, explain you the connection.
Saying that
Okay, yeah, Gopal Prabhu is trying to decode your question.
like he's saying if a boy if there is a child in Kshatriya family, so how so he should have a Kshatriya spirit. But how that mind, if it is not having the Kshatriya spirit, how it is interconnecting the birth of a Kshatriya body?
So that's it precisely, how a Kshatriya is born in a Kshatriya's family. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Prabhu, is your question clear to you?
Yeah.
I mean to say, is that what you're asking? Prabhu,
Yeah, yes.
is that the question? Yeah, that's the question. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically the question is how it is.
Okay. Okay, that was probably the complicated question, so it took a while to decode. Okay, so let me reframe again. So the question is how the Kshatriya is born in a Kshatriya family, Guna Karma. So what is described is also the consciousness of the husband and wife at the time of conception attracts a similar kind of a soul, living entity, So what is a major concern for a Kshatriya while begetting a child? He wants to have a son so that who could be the next king. So you read Bhagavatam, you see that happens, Major. For example, we have this example of Chitraketu Maharaj in the 6th canto. He got married to hundreds and crores actually. Somehow I feel strange to say crores. People just cannot believe. How can you get married? So I say hundreds, 1,000. Why did he got married? Because he wanted to beget a son who can become the king. So you see what was their consciousness? Dashrath Maharaj, he didn't have a child. He had 4 queens and then of course he had many other queens. So the consciousness at the time of conception attracts a particular kind of a living entity to the womb of a mother. That is how this will happen. So Kshatriya would want to have Kshatriya and Brahmana would by nature would have a Brahmanical consciousness. So that's how, so not only one, but both, husband and wife. So therefore, earlier marriages were arranged marriage at large, which was carefully seen that Kshatriya gets married to Kshatriya. Of course, Kshatriya husband can get married to Vaishya, but not to the higher class, not to Brahmani. I don't know what's exactly technical. Genetically, I understand, but technical, I don't know in terms of this question. But this is how. So the consciousness of the parents at the time of conception, therefore, is very important. Okay.
Okay, yeah, please. So basically, in Kali Yuga, because the purity of consciousness is not there in terms of Kshatriya or Brahmana or Vaishya or Shudra. So everything is hodgepodge and
So
mixed together.
largely in Kali Yuga is Varna Sankara. Because when ashram dharma is destroyed, then everything is destroyed. So therefore is Varna Sankara. So therefore it is said in Kali Yuga is all Shudra for that reason. Right?
Okay, yeah,
Because the science is not followed that way. Okay?
yeah, yes.
Yes. You have something to say?
Prabhuji, and
Oh, Prashant Prabhu had a question. Yeah, Prashant Prabhu, yeah.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, my question is, you said ki, if we are keep hearing the Prabhupada lecture, so the purification happens, and then we are able to retain more than what we are able to retain early days. तो बाद में हम उन चीजों को ज़्यादा repeat कर पाते हैं. So the cause is the purification. But let's say,
Yes.
in my case, that for example, I am not as interested in the political subject matter. So जो political terms हैं वो समझ में भी नहीं आते. But let's say if I'm keep hearing the political subject matter and keep reading about the politics, so it is going to happen that after some time I will able to understand. So can we say that, how do we understand that understanding the Prabhupada lecture or retaining the more information is the outcome of purification, not repetition?
Oh, yeah. No, but I never said about repetition, and neither I said always hearing Prabhupada lecture. I said those who regularly hear or who subject themselves to the culture of hearing. So, what was the initial challenge when we started listening lecture? And the initial challenge is again goes back to the same thing: desires. Desires keeps us distracted because why was I atmika buddhi? We were thinking about so many things. We have all kinds of desires. So therefore, even we are sitting and listening, we're not able to listen. Now, what happens with purification or pure time when you take to the process of Krishna consciousness? Our desires begin to get purified. To the degree, what gets purified? Purification of what? It's desires. So the degree desire gets purified. We talked about Shushrushya Shaddadhanasya Vasudeva Katha Ruchi. To that degree, we develop Ruchi. To that degree, we develop faith in the subject matter. And wherever you have Ruchi and Shraddha, is what natural our mind will be more attentive and absorbed in hearing it. So that's how it naturally happens. So what is getting purified is we're getting purified of our material desires. So in the beginning, we have all kinds of desire because we just have subjected ourselves to so many things. And then in the associated devotees, that begins to get purified. Our desires begins to change. So then we begin to pay attention more. Okay, that's just a natural phenomenon. There's nothing to be. So what we need to subject ourselves is to culture of hearing. Just again, same thing, nothing new to be done. Somehow we need to subject ourselves to what Prabhupada have given us. Try to do that as much as possible. Okay?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhuji.
All right, so we'll pause here. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. So this was up to 70th verse, right, today? 69. So there are 10 more verses. We'll see that tomorrow. Today is your Thursday. So I'll try to complete tomorrow, otherwise we'll not have to extend for next week. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone.